Welcome to the Matt Bernier Show.
What's going on? Welcome to the Matt Bernier Show here on live.drf.com, DRF TV, noon Eastern on the East Coast. That's why it's called Eastern. My name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. It's Friday, February the 3rd. We've got a pretty decent enough show, I would say, ahead of us here. We're going to first start off a little bit with Arrogate and go back and look and see what happened last weekend in the Pegasus World Cup. But all in all, we've got good things coming. We've got some good handicapping coming up, and we'll go back and take a look and see how we fared last weekend as far as the handicapping races are concerned. If you watch this thing live, whether it is live.drf.com, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, whether it's live stream, thank you for doing so. If you check it out, podcast, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. You've got a number of ways to find this show. And if you want to watch it live, if you're listening via podcast, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific every Friday here on DRF Live. Let's dive into some Arrogate / Pegasus talk. The big thing that I have to sort of discuss here, it seems like every time Arrogate runs, this is what the following show ends up being for me, over the past 3 times anyway. It comes down to a matter of, well, where does he stack up historically based on what he's done? It started with the Travers, it went into the Breeders' Cup Classic, now here we are in the Pegasus, and each time sort of the historical greatness continues to grow when you didn't really know if it could continue to grow or was feasible to grow. Let's start off going backward before we get to where we are now. Let's start off going back to the Travers, where this was a horse that Baffert had clearly always thought highly of, but you never really knew. And Baffert historically at Saratoga, not the greatest. He's had his success, but at the end of the day, it hasn't been his greatest sort of venue. He ships Arrogate out there. We didn't know what we were going to get. You got a 10-1 shot. They went out and ran a hole in the wind. Larry Coleman's from the top of the stretch in the Travers.
Fox is next. Exaggerator is coming wide as they come to the top of the stretch. It is Arrogate and Mike Smith. Oh, they've opened up a 6-length lead here with 1 furlong to run. They've left the field reeling behind. American Freedom and Gunrunner are fired behind Arrogate. What a commanding performance. He won the Travers by 12.
Obviously a historic performance there, but then you start breaking it down a little bit, not just because of the buyer speed figure you're in, but you go, okay, well, all well and good. The track was tilted towards speed that day up at Saratoga. You defeated 3-year-olds. You went 1.25 miles. Some of those horses may or may not want to go that far based on pedigree. This horse suggested he did. Not trying to knock that performance, but again, this is just sort of the devil's advocate immediately following it. Then when you saw the figure that came back, you said, well, wait a minute. Could he really do this? This is a horse that obviously he had been looking very, very good in Southern California, but he'd been facing 5-horse fields. He had been facing older, but at 1 1/16 mile, and he was just going out and doing things very professionally, the way the horses are supposed to do. Good horses, anyway. He had never run anything near a 120 or 122 buyer. He was in that sort of 100, 103 range. Now the big question became, were you going to get another prep prior to the Breeders' Cup Classic? And everyone started salivating at the thought of a California Chrome Arrogate showdown the first Saturday in November. We ultimately got it, and as far as the race itself is concerned, I think it sort of, I don't want to say alleviated, but eliminated any question about who the overall better animal was. This is the stretch run Michael Roner from the top of the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Top of the stretch, California Chrome is a length in front, but he faces an uncommon opponent today. Arrogate tries hard to reel in California Chrome. California Chrome with Espinosa going for the whip is still in front. Arrogate trying his heart out. California Chrome from Arrogate, a pulsating climax to the Classic. Arrogate takes the lead and wins. Arrogate beat California Chrome.
Again, for me, in my opinion, that was sort of the what else did you need to know? This was a 3-year-old going up against an older horse, fully matured horse in California Chrome, who was in career form, still is in career form, arguably. We'll dive into that a little bit later on. But the fact that he went and got Chrome at Chrome's best when he was out there on the front end, had everything his own way, to me, that eliminated any question about who the better animal was. I thought going in it may be Arrogate, but it was still too early to really tell. For me, at that point, it was definitive. It also helps when you back it up with another giant buyer speed figure. You're into 120 that day in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Now we came back from Santa Anita and we started talking about historically how many horses could run 120 plus buyers consecutively going 1.25 miles. The list is about this big, and the fact that he did it as a 3-year-old made it all that much more special and that much more interesting. enter the Pegasus World Cup, and I think this was supposed to be maybe not the nail in the coffin as far as who ultimately was better, but we were hoping to see a major showdown between California Chrome and Arrogate. We'll get into the California Chrome piece in a minute, but at the end of the day, 9 furlongs in South Florida where Baffert had not shipped in 5 years. He just did not go down there, and all the sort of rumors and rumblings about maybe this horse wasn't right. Arrogate, maybe he had a little bit of an abscess that could have turned into a quarter crack. He had a 3/4 shoe on one of his hind legs. You never knew. You never know. It's one of those things until they go out and do it. And here we are. Pete Ayel, take us home. Pegasus World Cup.
Shaman Ghost splits horses for Jose Ortiz, and they're into the stretch, and it's the Breeders' Cup winner. It's Arrogate in front, leading by 3 with 1/8 of a mile to go. Shaman Ghost is trying to get into second. Then Neolithic. Back fourth is Noble Bird, followed by Keen Ice. But what a race! What a sport! What a horse! Arrogate romps in the Pegasus. He won it by 3.5.
Now, obviously, we didn't get the showdown that we were hoping for reasons that remain to be known. It just sounds like California Chrome wasn't feeling his best that day. And you know what? Of all horses to deserve a mulligan, California Chrome is probably at the top of the list. But what we are left with, and timing aside, which became a major factor and a major sort of taboo area here for Gulfstream Park and some other racetracks as far as their timing is concerned, once the final time was adjusted, and now Arrogate has a track record at 1 1/8 at Gulfstream Park, he earned a 119 buyer from the preliminary 116 buyer that was originally awarded to him. We're going to take a look at his overall body of work right now. These are his PPs. And you look at that 3-race stretch, the 122 in the Travers, the 120 in the Breeders' Cup Classic, the 119 in the Pegasus World Cup. 3 different racetracks, 2 different distances, 2 of them being at 1 1/4 miles, 1 of them being at 1 1/8 miles. For a horse that, when he ran his 2 120s, he was a 3-year-old facing older with the second race. And the Pegasus at 9 furlongs at a racetrack he had never been to, at a racetrack that his connections don't go to, Gulfstream Park, to do all of this. And again, I understand California Chrome. Maybe if he had been feeling himself that day, we would have gotten the showdown, and maybe he would have gotten the job done. Who knows? I think it's just time to start really trying to dive in and find out where this horse stacks up, because I understand figures are not the end-all, be-all. But it's the easiest way for us to compare horses. That's at the end of the day what you're trying to do, and use that as a tool, handicapping-wise, but we can also look at it historically. I went back to 2007, January 1st of 2007. Over the past 10 years, there have been 15 buyer speed figures of 119 or greater. Arrogate has 3 of them. He has 3 of them, all in the span of 5 months. 2 of them as a 3-year-old, 1 of them in his first try against older horses, quality older horses. And I'm not talking about the allowance horses he was getting his feet wet with again in Southern California. 15 119 plus buyer speed figures over the past 10 years. He has 3 of them. The only other horse on that list with multiple 119 plus buyers was Corinthian, and he did that going shorter at 1 mile and 70 yards. It's just really kind of a mind-boggling number. And even when you just want to go into the grand scheme of things, going as far back as they've been published, 119 plus buyer speed figures are not common. Going all the way back to when they were first started being published, there have only been 129 of them actually recorded. He has 3 of them in the span of 5 months. Going 9 furlongs or greater with a 119 buyer, there have only been 69 of them. He has 3 of them. What I'm trying to say here is, I don't want people to take this for granted, because this is a stretch, and I don't think I'm overstating the importance or the greatness of what we're seeing. I think people aren't necessarily taking this for what it is. We're all excited. We want to see him run more. This 3-race stretch is almost unheard of. And, you know, we've seen great athletes in other sports, you know, fall by the wayside, and you just look back so fondly on when they were at their best. Tiger Woods, I'm not just saying it because he just withdrew from the tournament out in Dubai because of back problems, but we saw how quickly that went away. And when he was at his best, it was something unbelievable to watch. We're seeing it now with Tom Brady, who, as he continues to get older, he stays at that perfect level. The fact that this horse has done what he's done in such a short amount of time, I don't want us to be looking back and let's just, God forbid, say he were to retire tomorrow. Sure, we'd all be disappointed, but while we're in it, let's just try to appreciate what he's actually done, because this is something that horses just don't do. He is one horse that has run 3 consecutive 119 plus buyers. The last horse to run 3 consecutive 116 plus buyers was Ghost Zapper, and he did that 2 times going shorter than a route of ground. The fact that Arrogate is doing what he's doing is really, really an accomplishment to behold, and something for all of us, whether you're a gambler or just a fan, we need to appreciate and just make sure that we're fully understanding what we're taking a look at. We're going to take a break here on the show. When we come back, we're going to dive into a handicapping review. Went over 4 races last weekend. Rather formful, all things considered, but we'll dive into that for better or for worse, and then we'll get into some handicapping preview coming up this Saturday afternoon on DRF Live. Stay with us. It's the Matt Bernier Show.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker, the exotic wagering app.
Well, the amazing thing about our work was just how similar he is to Uncle Mo. I mean, right away, of all of Rapoli's babies, he stood out as the most advanced, the most precocious, and the most talented, and that was exactly the same thing we'd seen a few years before with Uncle Mo.
Outwork wins it for John Velasquez.
To be able to win a Grade 1 like the Wood Memorial in only his 4th lifetime start was very impressive.
It is Outwork in front. The winner of the Gun Handicap.
This horse is the complete package. He's won from 7 furlongs to 1.1 miles. He's won on dual surfaces. He's won with and without Lasix, and he's traveled around the world and brought his A game with him.
He showed that he was a very top-class dirt horse.
Balance is key, and he was just perfectly proportioned. I think that's what made him so athletic and so efficient on the track.
12:12 on the East, 9:12 on the West. The Matt Bernier Show on DRF TV, live.drf.com. Live stream, all sorts of ways for you to check us out later on, podcast version as well. We started off at the top of the show talking about Arrogate, and just overall what he's done has been historic and really unprecedented. We haven't seen a horse do this in quite some time. Let's go back and take a look at the races themselves. One of them happened to be the Pegasus World Cup, and I know we already saw the replay of it, but I think we should probably take a look at it again. I thought the most likely winner going in was Arrogate. He went off as the favorite at 4-5. I thought a live long shot was breaking lucky. He ultimately ends up finishing 8th at 74-1, but what the heck, why not? From the top of the lane, Pete Aiello.
Shaman Go splits horses for Jose Ortiz, and they're into the stretch, and it's the Breeders' Cup winner. It's Arrogate in front, leading by 3 with 1/8 of a mile to go. Shaman Ghost is trying to get into second. Then Neolithic. Back fourth is Noble Bird, followed by Keen Ice. But what a race! What a sport! What a horse! Arrogate romps in the Pegasus. He won it by 3.5.
Obviously a little bit disappointing that we didn't get to see California Chrome at his best, but there's just a part of me, and it's not meant to be a knock against California Chrome. Again, this is a first ballot Hall of Famer. The things that he has done, not just as far as the racing is concerned, but for racing in general, the longevity of him sticking around shouldn't be diminished. I wonder if even if he was at his best, if he could have run with this horse. Arrogate just looks like he could be a special animal, and again, just historically what he's done. No other horses have done it over the past 10, 20 years. So Arrogate gets the job done, is the most likely winner at 4-5. Live long shot, breaking lucky. An uncharacteristic clunker from this horse, because it just seems like more often than not he shows up and runs his race, didn't get the job done. He's up the board, or up the track I should say, and off the board at 74-1. So he was a long shot, not so live though. So that was a swing and a miss there. The W.L. McKnight handicap, I thought going in a vulnerable favorite was Twilight Eclipse, I should say. He didn't actually go off as the favorite. He went off as the third choice at 5-1. I thought a live long shot in this race could have been Generous Kitten turning back at big odds of 36-1 from the top of the lane.
And now the pace quickens. They run to the top of the stretch in the McKnight, and they line up. Patterson Cross is up to take a short lead. Charming Kitten and Taglib is off cover. Danish Dynaformer down the center, and Sadler's Joy's looking for room with an eighth of a mile to go. Taglib has the lead. Sadler's Joy set down driving by Leparoux, trying to get him on the money. It's Taglib or Sadler's Joy. Here's the wire photo finish.
Just another remarkable job by trainer Mike Maker with these horses that, you know what, when they get good, they stay good. This horse had run well at Churchill Downs. He started putting it all together. He comes back and he runs a good race down at Gulfstream Park and then comes back with this effort here. I thought he should have been in the 10-1 range, but guess what? Taglib gets it done at 5-1. Ran a big race here. Again, Twilight Eclipse, he's a cool old horse. He just shows up and runs his race. Okay, so he wasn't the favorite, but he went off at 5-1. I thought he could have been one that you maybe wanted to poke a hole in. Mr. Maybe, I probably should have been smarter than to call Twilight Eclipse the likely post-time favorite, because Mr. Maybe takes money wherever he shows up. And it's an interesting sort of thing. We know obviously what Chad Brown's capable of doing, but with a horse like Mr. Maybe, who looked for a minute last year, or I should even say at the end of 2015, like he was going to be a grade 1 caliber turf router, the wheels have just kind of fallen off. This horse, I understand he ran big race up at Saratoga, but that was in a restricted race on 1 mile and 5/8. Mr. Maybe, I don't know what you do with him going forward from here. Disappointing effort there for sure. The La Prevoyante. I thought the most likely winner was Suffused. I thought a vulnerable favorite was Suffused. I figured she'd take money. I didn't think she'd go off at 7-5. I thought a live long shot in this spot could have been Flip Cup with Johnny Villa aboard. Let's take it from the top of the stretch.
Fire Luck, who takes over the lead. Here's Suffused and the Jutmont Pink on the outside. Suffused 4 wide and on the attack. And between horses is Quiet Kitten, and Arl is still right there. There's an eighth of a mile to go. Suffused has the lead. Arl tries to stay with her second. Back third, Try Your Luck, then Quiet Kitten. But they come to the finish, and the La Prevoyante goes to Suffused.
Really, I understand it was only a length. I thought a pretty authoritative effort here from Suffused, considering this was her first start off of quite a bit of a layoff. She went out there, and she'd always been a bit of a goofball. I thought all things considered, this was a good start for her, a good sort of comeback effort. I don't know what her ceiling is. I don't think she's any sort of superstar, but Bilmont's gotten her good, and she just goes out and does her job. 7-5, I still wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole at 7-5, so vulnerable favorite, wrong. She went out and did this pretty comfortably. Most likely winner, we got that one. Flip Cup was very disappointing. I thought she didn't put in any sort of bid. I was concerned about the distance going into it. I don't want to blame it on the distance. She just never really picked up her feet at any point. She was toward the back, never delivered any kick. I thought it was a disappointing effort from Flip Cup. Let's go out west. We had a couple of good races out in Southern California last Saturday, but the one that I dove into was the Cal Cup Turf Classic. I thought the most likely winner in the race was Ashley Love Sugar, coming out of all those graded stakes races. And this one, I can understand why the connections looked at it and said $250,000 restricted to Calbreds. I don't think they even thought it would come up as salty as it did. It was a good field. I thought a live long shot would have been He Will. I said it even in the preview last week, though, that, you know what, I'm calling him a live long shot. I think he's going to take money. I thought he should have been 7-2. He went off at 7-2. Michael Rono from the top.
Top of the stretch with Ashley Love Sugar quickly on the attack. Ashley Love Sugar and What a View to the 8th pole, together by 3 lengths to Warden, Jerry Posky, and He Will is down the outside. Ashley Love Sugar and What a View coming to the 16th pole, fighting out a great finish in the California Cup Turf Classic. Ashley Love Sugar just in front. He's in the ascendancy late. Ashley Love Sugar by a neck. What a View.
I mean, this one it's really as simple as the best horse won. The best horse got the best trip, and he got the job done. The pace scenario certainly worked against He Will a little bit, but at the end of the day, he was a goofball again, and that's the biggest concern for me. I thought he had finally ironed that out, kind of got on the up and up as far as the professionalism is concerned. Unfortunately, this race seems like it was a minor step back as far as that is concerned. But I don't want to completely write him off. I think there's going to be a spot for him down the road when he gets a little bit more pace to run at. He obviously needs to mind his manners and act a little bit better, a little bit more mature, but I still think he can run. Ashley Love Sugar, you can do whatever you want with him. He obviously got the mile on an 8th. I still think he's better going a little bit longer with that early speed, that positional speed that he has. He can carry it a long, long way. The most likely winner, he gets it done at even money. He Will. I thought he should have been 7-2. He went off at 7-2. Not the best of trips, but at the end of the day, not nearly as good as Ashley Love Sugar. So the most likely winners, those were all check marks. Again, that's not really breaking any news, though, because those were all chalks. The live long shots need a little bit of work, and hopefully this week we'll do better. And when we come back from break, we'll dive into this week's races. We've got a handful of them, including the return of the 2-year-old champion, Classic Empire, in the Holy Bull down at Gulfstream. Stay with us.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker, the exotic wagering app.
Well, the amazing thing about our work was just how similar he is to Uncle Mo. I mean, right away, of all of Rapoli's babies, he stood out as the most advanced, the most precocious, and the most talented, and that was exactly the same thing we'd seen a few years before with Uncle Mo.
Outwork wins it for John Velasquez.
To be able to win a Grade 1 like the Wood Memorial in only his 4th lifetime start was very impressive.
It is Outwork in front. The winner of the Gun Handicap.
This horse is the complete package. He's won from 7 furlongs to a mile and 1/8. He's won on dual surfaces. He's won with and without Lasix, and he's traveled around the world and brought his A game with him.
He showed that he was a very top-class dirt horse.
Balance is key, and he was just perfectly proportioned. I think that's what made him so athletic and so efficient on the track.
12:21 on the East, 9:21 on the West, the Matt Bernier Show here on DRF TV, live.drf.com. Let's dive into some handicapping preview for this upcoming weekend. We've got 3 races tomorrow afternoon. Let's start off down in South Florida, the Holy Bull. It is the return of the 2-year-old champion, Classic Empire, and let's take a look at the entry card. If you're watching this live, whether it's on DRF TV or it's on live stream, you can obviously see the slate here. If you're watching it on YouTube or video.drf.com podcast version, the far right side, those are my odds. For those of you just listening, as far as SoundCloud is concerned, I'll run them down for you real quick in post position order. Gunnevera 6-1, Perro Rojo 99-1, Classic Empire going to be a heavy favorite. I think 7-5 is warranted. He's going to be much, much shorter than that. Talk Logistics 7-1, Irish Warcry 7-1, Fact Finding 9-1, Shamsan 99-1, Cavill 13-1, Fire for Effect 49-1. I think without question the most likely winner in the race, I'm not giving you anything crazy here, is Classic Empire. For those of you watching, we're going to take a look right now. This is Breeders' Cup Juvenile out at Santa Anita Park. Just a really tremendous effort. When you look at the fractions, you consider he buried the other speed in here, Syndergaard, who was up the track. Not this time, who was a quality animal, came running at him. Unfortunately, not this time, has been retired because of an injury. He'll go stand somewhere. Classic Empire digs in. I don't think this was a product of not this time hanging. I think Classic Empire dug in. You watch the gallop out all the way around. He never lets him by. Another sort of buyer speed figure, historical context of Classic Empire. Over the past 10 years, with 2-year-olds that have earned a 100 buyer speed figure or greater, there have only been 21 races, all told, over the past 10 years, where horses have earned 100 plus buyers as 2-year-olds. Some of the names in that list: Uncle Mo, Shared Belief, To Honor and Serve, American Pharaoh, Jackson Bend. You have some other horses that were one-off, sort of just crazies. Daredevil, is one to be named. But the fact of the matter is, this is another horse that has done things already historically that we haven't seen very frequently over the past 10 years. He's by far, the most likely winner in this race. If you are for some reason looking to take a shot against him, I think maybe you want to take a look at Graham Motion's runner, Irish Warcry. We're going to take a look right now. This is the Marylander, his most recent start on New Year's Eve. And look, he's down on the inside. He's taking heat from O Dionysus on the outside. He's a bit of a goofball. He's still green, and he's learning a little bit. He was better in this spot than he was in his career debut, going even shorter. He's going to need to be better if he's going to continue on. He's going to try 2 turns for the first time here this Saturday afternoon down at Gulfstream. He's going to get Lasix for the first time, and I think that's a big key for Motion, particularly a guy who's really sharp. Obviously, he's won the Kentucky Derby, he's won the Dubai World Cup, just a number of graded stakes races all over the world. The Lasix go on. I think Irish Warcry is a little bit of an interesting runner. Don't know how far ultimately he's going to want to go, but at this stage in the game, if you absolutely told me you had to pick against Classic Empire, I would probably lean toward Irish Warcry. And another horse that I'm not going to include him as far as the slate is concerned. Talk Logistics has run very, very well in each of his past 2 races. I wonder if ultimately he ends up being a 1-turn sprinter, closing from the back of the pack. Let's go out to Santa Anita. 2 big races out there. You've got the San Antonio for older horses. Let's start off with that race, and we'll take a look at the entry card. My son is in this race, Opportunity. I think just based on the odds, he is the most likely winner, but as you can see, I have him as a tepid choice in here. Opportunity's down on the rail 4-1, Avanti Bello 16-1, Prospect Park 9-1, El Huerfano 9-1, More Spirit 5-1, Dalmore 7-1, Accelerate 5-1, Hard Aces 13-1. I think Opportunity is vulnerable in this spot simply because his most recent start in the Clark Handicap I thought was terrible. And you know what? Similar to California Chrome, if any horses deserve mulligans, it's a horse like California Chrome, and it's a horse like Opportunity, who all he does is show up and run his race time and time again. He's going to deliver with a low 100, maybe even a mid 100 buyer. And unfortunately, for one reason or another, at Churchill Downs last time out, it didn't happen. He didn't deliver, and you know what? Okay, draw a line through it. The concern becomes this race at a mile and a 16th. There's not a ton of early gas in here, and he does his best running late from the back of the pack, or at least mid-pack anyway. I'm not going to call him the most likely winner, as you could see based on my odds. I think he's the most likely winner, but at 4-1, giving him about a 20% chance. I can't possibly look at you and say, I think he's the most likely winner in here. I think he's a vulnerable favorite at 4-1. I think a live long shot is El Huerfano. He's an interesting runner in this spot, and I get it. He looks cheap on paper. He ran way too well to lose most recently. I know it was on a wet track, and maybe that is the difference maker, and it just woke him up in a big way. I think he has a chance to shake loose in here. He's going to be a giant, giant price. I'm going to use him probably in some fashion in a pick four somewhere, and later on today we're going to be taping a pick four video for the late pick four out at Santa Anita. You can find that on video.drf.com. But I think he's one that, you know what, maybe he gets brave. Maybe he shakes loose and goes on with it if that track at Santa Anita, the profile is certainly tilted towards speed going 2 turns. Maybe he fades down the lane, but guess what? He's going to be $1,000,000 to 1, and maybe he's one that you want to consider using in your exotics. The best race of the weekend, in my opinion, is the San Marcos, the nightcap out at Santa Anita tomorrow afternoon. Let's take a look at that field. You've got a field of 14 that are going to go postward in here. I'm going to bring them right for you in post position order. A Red Tie Day, 32-1. And again, these odds are my personal odds, not the morning line, not what I think they'll go off at. Flamboyant, 12-1. It's in the post, 19-1. Blue Tone, 99-1. Texas Rayano, 9-2. Power Ped, 99-1. Gusnato, 32-1. Perfectly Majestic, 16-1. Conquest Daddio, 16-1. Somen TM, 10-1. Isotherm, 19-1. High Happy, 6-1. 2020 Vision, 6-1. Frank Conversation, 13-1. I think this race is ripe for the picking. I think you have to use Texas Rayano. He's in just too good form. He's too sharp not to include him. I thought Dan Illman made a good point that maybe this horse wants to go a little bit longer than 1.25 miles. Maybe he's done his best at 1.5 miles. Maybe that's what he ultimately wants to do. I have to use him, but I'm licking my chops. I need this thing to come up reasonably firm. Not that he's run poorly on softer going in the past, but it looks like there may be a little bit of rain coming in today in the Southern California area. I think High Happy has a giant chance in this race. We saw him make his North American debut in the Seabiscuit going 1 mile and 16th down at Del Mar. For one reason or another, it didn't work out. I'm of the opinion you watched the race, he loomed, he was ready to go, and when they pushed the button, there was nothing there. To me, that doesn't signify a horse that has no ability. That more shows a horse that was probably short and needed a race, considering he'd been off for a year, and the connections looked at it and said, you know what, he probably needs 1.25 miles rather than 1 mile and 16th. They're getting all of that here today. I think High Happy, I made him 6-1. I think he goes off well north of that. I think he is a live long shot, and he's also my pick in the San Marcos at Santa Anita tomorrow afternoon. Speaking of tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock Eastern, DRF Live. We've got a great day of racing for you. Let's take a look at that slate. Dan Illman and Mike Beer will kick things off. You've got some good graded stakes action all over the country. You've got 3 races that are going to be awarding points toward the Kentucky Derby, the Robert B. Lewis out at Santa Anita, the Withers up here at Aqueduct, as well as the Holy Bull down at Gulfstream Park. The Holy Bull, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, is the race that most people will be most interested in, simply because you have the 2-year-old champion Classic Empire coming back, and you can see we're going to bring you right through the San Marcos tomorrow night. Scheduled post time 7:30 Eastern. Again, 3 o'clock Eastern is kickoff for DRF Live tomorrow afternoon. Speaking of kickoff, I'm not going to dive into it deep, but I've got to at least acknowledge Super Bowl coming up on Sunday, the Atlanta Falcons, New England Patriots. As you've paid attention this entire time on this show, I normally go on and give picks. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to give a pick. I want the Patriots to win, obviously. I hope they do. If they hold the Falcons to a reasonable amount of points. Put it this way. The way I said to Craig, producer in the back room, yesterday, if the Pats can put up 28, I think they win. Period. End of story. I don't think I understand Atlanta has a tremendous offense. Historic. One of the top 10, I think, of all time as far as scoring is concerned. The Patriots are just a more well-rounded team, in my opinion, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a homer. I think the Patriots get the job done, particularly if they can score 28 points, which I think they're capable of. I don't think Atlanta can beat them. Let's go Pats. Fingers crossed. The Friday formulator race today, we don't have it queued up for you, but you can find it on video.drf.com. It's a good race out at Santa Anita. It's a mile on the turf. It's a concern that maybe they do run it, maybe they don't run it on the turf. Again, depends on what kind of weather shows up in this spot, but it's a really, really interesting race. You have arguably a graded stakes caliber field on a Friday afternoon at the Great Race Place. Video.drf.com if you want to check that out. We are normally on here, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, every Friday, whether you want to watch on live.drf.com, you want to watch on live stream, you want to watch on Twitter, Facebook, whatever's easiest for you. If you want to listen to it, podcast version, you've got SoundCloud, you've got iTunes, you've got drf.com, you have YouTube and video.drf.com. You can see my ugly mug and you can get some nice visuals that all of our folks here put together. If you just want to listen to it, you've got SoundCloud, you've got iTunes. You have all different ways to check out this show. But again, live every Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on DRF TV. Without further ado, I'm going to let all of you get on with the rest of your Friday or Saturday or whenever you're listening to this. Best of luck this weekend. Go Pats. We'll talk again next Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, live.drf.com.